We all want to have a beautiful garden, but one thing that you'll be sharing your garden with so often are pests. And it's nice to look at the different ways in which you can control pests naturally without resorting to harmful chemicals. So let's have a look at some of the techniques. The number one pest in this country is the slug. Slugs and snails. They love tender new shoots, and if they eat them away, then you won't get any plants at all. You can use barrier products like this to actually make a complete circle around tender plants in your garden. And if you put this round the plants early in the season, just as they're poking through the soil, this stops the slugs and snails crawling over the soil surface and reaching the plants to protect them from attack. Or get yourself some old plastic bottles, cut off the bottom, and you can pop these over young plants and seedlings. Keeps birds away, creates a little mini cloche to help the plants grow more quickly, and keeps the pests away too. If you are troubled with slugs in the garden, just get your old compost bags, cut them open, and try laying these onto the soil surface, either on the borders or on the lawn. Hold them down with a few stones if it's windy weather, and then in the morning, just peel back and have a look underneath. You'll be surprised the number of slugs you can trap in that way. And when you catch them, just pop them into a jam jar filled with salty water, and that will kill them. You can put the top on and pop them in the dustbin. Or another thing you can do in your borders, around your delicate plants, on your veg plot, anywhere you like, just dig a hole, sink a jam jar or a plastic yogurt pot or something into the ground so that the rim of the pot is level with the soil surface, and top that up with a good bitter beer. And this acts as a slug trap. What you'll find is they're attracted to the smell of the beer, they will crawl along, go and have a nice drink, and die happy, drowned in the alcohol below. And when you found some slugs in there, again, you can literally put the top on and just throw that away in the dustbin. Do also check though each day, because you can find that little beetles and some of the nice insects in the garden can crawl in there, so just hook those out and save them. Otherwise, it's a good way of controlling slugs naturally. One pest that attacks tender shoots of so many plants around your garden are aphids, green fly and black fly, and they literally coat the shoots and reproduce at an amazing rate. It's worth trying to nip them in the bud and rub them off by hand. Often you'll find ants along with the aphids on the plant, and the ants are not only spreading the aphids from plant to plant, they're protecting them from attack by predators, and they're also milking them and feeding on their honeydew. But early in the season, if you can rub those off by hand, you can certainly clear the shoots of any aphids which might be present. Later in the year, ladybird larvae and adult ladybirds and hoverfly larvae, the populations will be building up and they'll be eating those green fly and black fly for you. But until then, rub them off by hand. Sometimes even get the nozzle of a hose and wash them off as you're rubbing the plant. You can get rid of them completely. Job done. Sometimes aphid populations get completely out of hand, and there's a total infestation here on this apple tree. Notice how the aphids themselves are hiding inside the curled up leaves, so they're protecting themselves from predators like birds which will be feeding around the garden. Later in the season, ladybirds and lacewings and hoverflies will be out in force eating away, but earlier in the season it's worth getting a natural pesticide. This one contains pyrethrum. It's great for controlling aphids, caterpillars and whitefly, and just spraying over the shoots, trying to get the spray right inside the curled up shoots, and this controls them on contact. It's perfectly safe to use on fruit trees and bushes and on the veg plot too. Spray over all the shoots, and that will give you natural pest control of these horrible aphids. Another useful way to keep crops and plants healthy is to use barriers to keep pests and predators away. So if you're growing fruit in your garden, strawberries and raspberries and things for instance, then get yourself some netting. Build a small framework or put some canes in the ground with some plant pots on the top and put that completely over the fruit to keep hungry birds away. Or you can use barriers around the kitchen garden as well and grow crops underneath these barrier materials. It's a very fine netting, and if you sow your seeds in the ground and then cover it with a fleece material or this very fine netting, it stops insect pests getting through to feed on the plants below. You can also, earlier in the season, use tunnel cloches to grow plants under, and this will keep particularly pigeons off your early salads and brassica crops. Or why not use some of these greenhouse insect catchers? These work like good old-fashioned fly papers. They've got a yellow colour and a glue coating on the trap itself, and you just hang these in your greenhouse or your conservatory and they will attract whitefly, greenfly and other flying pests to a sticky end. And lastly, even if you haven't got a cat, you might find that neighbouring cats are using your garden for you know what. Well, you can keep them away by getting hold of some cat repellent product. It's a very fine granule, and literally if you can sprinkle this over the borders, it's got lots of aromatic oils in it, and this should deter cats from coming into your garden. So there you have it, different methods of controlling pests by hand. Think of ways you can encourage beneficial creatures, birds and insects into your garden. Maybe you've got a pond so you get frogs and toads in to eat those slugs which are attacking your plants. Using barriers and other methods, there's a range of things you'll find in store to help keep your garden healthy.